Okay, I talked briefly about writing web content as a generalist. Now I want to talk about it as a niche writer. Okay, a niche writer is one who writes in a very specific arena: finance, sports, medicine, whatever. Now, what's great about doing niche content is that you can make cash pretty quickly. If you go onto the sites that we're going to go through in the next lesson, if you go to those sites, you're going to find blog jobs or writing little blurbs or writing little content jobs in that niche, and those pay quickly. Now, a quick, 3 blog gig can easily turn into an ongoing gig if the client has a need for ongoing material, or if they really love your stuff. And don't be afraid to be proactive here. Let's say that you've written 3 blog pieces for some, how to clean swimming pool website. If you have other ideas that you think would really work on that site, don't be afraid to go directly to the person who's hiring you and say, you know what, here are some other ideas I think would work really well. I'd love to write them for you. So be proactive. Now, writing web content is also going to build up your portfolio and establish you as an authority, and it can become a referral business. And over time, if you're established in a specific niche, clients will start coming to you. I have reached a point, and yes, I'm not doing side hustle writing right now. I'm doing full-time writing, but in some of my niches, even though I'm a generalist, I'm considered an authority in some of my niches. I have had clients come directly to me, and that does happen. So how do you pick a niche? Well, you don't want a freelance gig that you're going to hate. So just make yourself a little chart like this and look at the things about which you have knowledge. You could be the greatest soccer coach on the planet, which is fabulous. And that you have a passion for. The key here is there an audience for it? And then just total up your scores. So like this whole, let's look at the dragon one, the second one down. You may be pretty knowledgeable about that. You may have an incredible passion for it, but what do you think your audience is going to be? And yes, the audience number is very subjective. You're going to have to do a little digging to see what's out there on the web. But you do get a good sense of the audience. Well, the audience for dragons versus the audience for golf are oceans apart. So once you go through this little exercise, total up the score and choose the top couple of scores for the things that you want to go after, where you want to establish your authority in a niche. And remember earlier I said that all you need to know is a step or two ahead of me or a step ahead of anybody else. You don't have to be an expert, but you do need to be informed. And if the competition is so incredibly strong in your niche, move away from the center and go to even a narrower focus. And as I said here, look for the sweet spot where your passion and a need collide, because basically any writing job that's not, that we're talking about blogging, that's informational, the person who owns that site and is hiring you, they're writing things that people are actively looking for. We may all love something kind of oddball that nobody else likes. That's great, but it is not the sweet spot where passion and the need collide. Okay? If there's too much competition, I said to narrow your focus. So here's a couple of examples. Health. Health is a huge field, and it is incredibly competitive, and it's one that you have to be a good researcher. You have to go to reliable sources, because nobody owning a website is going to want to have your stuff on there that really is inaccurate or you've been taking guesses about. But anyway, back to the narrowing the niche. Health. No, I would never go into that. Teenage skin problems. That is a great sub-niche. And, find me a teenager that hasn't had a skin problem and it's going to be a miracle. So it's a good narrowed niche. Travel, another huge niche. Too big, lots of competition if you're just getting started. But, road trips on $10 a day, great. Pets, no. Treating cat diabetes, yes. In fact, that's a topic I've sold a couple of articles on. Car repairs, that one's iffy. Not quite sure about the competition there. It might be okay as a major niche, but if you could concentrate on what women need to know about car repairs, or how not to get ripped off, or these are the ballpark costs for getting an oil change or getting an alternator replaced. If you want to make yourself a niche authority in car repairs, think of all the ways you can spin that out and all the audiences that you can spin that out to. As you're choosing your niche also, look for things that have long-lasting life, like Pokemon. For a period of time that was so huge, and that's practically all that you saw out there in the blogosphere was stuff on Pokemon. That is not lasting money. Things that are faddish right now in the diet section, Wheat Belly is huge. The diet that's like all meat, like Atkins type diets, those are faddish, and they're going to be great today. They're not going to be great over the long haul. So things that do have long lives, World War II. There's always going to be an interest in World War II, especially as that greatest generation is basically all dying. There is a scramble to capture stories, to write articles or blog posts about trips to World War II battlegrounds, or trips to the Sicily campaign, profiles of people in the war. World War II is a long-lasting niche. iPhones, I think iPhones are a long-lasting niche, unless Apple does something really wild and comes up with another kind of phone. Scrapbooking. Scrapbooking had its heyday several years ago. Doesn't mean that people are not still scrapbooking, but you're not going to find the audience for it that you would have 5 years ago. Home improvement. Now that is a long-lasting niche. People are always going to have homes, and if you have a home, it is always going to need some kind of home improvement. So be looking for niches that will sustain your freelance writing, your side hustle writing over a period of time. This is really important. Learn to create spin-offs. How TV shows have all their spin-offs? I'll take this example right here. If you love space, if you love astronomy, what websites can you go pitch your services to besides astronomy? Well, homeschooling, vintage books. There is a whole sub-niche of vintage books about space from the 1950s. Space art. Space art is another huge field because, and it's really interesting too, Americans and Russian space artists are like night and day, the art that they create. The American space art tends to be very detail-oriented, and it's almost photographic. The Russian space art tends to be just dynamic, filled with colors, and much more abstract. Okay, so you love space. You can pitch something to education sites, collectible sites. You would not believe the collectible things in the whole world of space art. Well, those kids' 1950 space books are one of them. Lunch boxes that have space pictures, stamps that are space related, a coffee mug from the Palomar Observatory. Learn how to really think broadly. Once you've created your niche, think of all the ways that you can spin it and go out and hit up websites to write for them. Now, in the next lesson, I am going to be talking about the sites that do post freelance gigs, But what I really want you to take away from this lesson is be proactive. Yes, you're going to find gigs on the sites in our next lesson. But if you have a passion and a knowledge and you have something you really want to write about, be proactive and go out to these websites, homeschool sites, vintage book sites, art sites, education, whatever works for you. Go out and pitch your ideas. I've had year-long gigs with websites that I've actively pitched because I had an idea. It was something that interested me, and I thought it would interest their readers, and it was a gap on their site. They didn't have it. So be proactive and have fun thinking about all this stuff. There's so much to do. There's so many cool things to write about, and it's going to make you some good money.